By the time of this recording, I've written 3 bestsellers, grown my YouTube channel to 130,000 subscribers, and trained some of the most prestigious brands out there. But I guess I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I could have actually gotten there much faster. Now, if I could go back and talk to my 20-year-old self, here's the brutal advice I'd give. Lesson number 1. I spent 130,000 on an MBA from Columbia University, and it was a terrible investment. Now, was it fun? Sure. Hey, I made some of my best friends during that time. But when it comes to those real-world skills, it just wasn't that useful. Most of those universities, they're still stuck in those outdated models. They don't teach the stuff that actually matters to grow your business. How to get clients, how to tell a great story, how to build a personal brand that people care about. Like, don't waste your money on a fancy degree. So if I could go back, I'd skip the degree altogether and spend the 130,000 on the best courses I would find. A course on sales, a course on storytelling, maybe a course on productivity from people who have actually done it, not from some professors who never left the classroom. Lesson number 2. A month ago, my friend asked me, hey Philipp, can you teach the Zouk class on Sunday? And I told her, hey, what? I'm not a dance teacher. Like, sure, I know how to dance, but I'm not a teacher. And she said, no, don't worry. Like, just teach a few beginner steps. And I was like, okay, I guess, yeah, I'll try it. Now, day of the class, my heart is pounding. It starts very awkward. But then something weird happens. I'm not just remembering the steps. I'm seeing suddenly the dance in a completely different way, like deeper, clearer. Like I've just leveled up my own dancing just by teaching. Actually, after the class, someone came up to me and said, wow, that was amazing. Do you give private classes? I was like, no, I'm good. I don't give private classes. But I was also grateful because I realized you don't have to be perfect in order to teach others. You just have to be a few steps ahead. Let's say if you've already put in 100 hours into something, well, you already know more than 99% of the people. So don't wait to be great. Teach to become great. Grow into the person you didn't think was ready for that. Lesson number 3. I used to think change had to be hard, that I somehow had to suffer to grow, until one book shattered that belief. It was back then, June 2014. I was sitting in my apartment with a cigarette in my hand. I was just thinking, dude, you're such a failure, right? You've tried to quit so many times. Like, what's wrong with you? Back then, that was my 5th attempt to quit, and again, failed another time. Nothing worked. I tried it all, patches, willpower, shame, nothing worked. And I started to believe, hey, maybe this is just who I am. But then, a friend gave me a book, The Easy Way to Quit Smoking by Alan Carr. Now, I read that book in 3 hours, and something clicked. From that moment onwards, I never smoked again, not even once. And the crazy part is, it wasn't even that hard. That book taught me something I now use everywhere. Sure, quitting to smoke, one thing, but also how to grow my subscribers to 100,000, and also how to become this much more captivating communicator. So what was the shift? The shift was to stop saying, oh, this is so hard, to saying, this is easy. So before I film a video, I tell myself, this is easy. Before I go on stage, I tell myself, this is easy. I'm here to have fun. And before I write anything, I'm like, this is easy. Just by reframing it, it becomes much easier. Lesson number 4. Now, why is it that most people never hit their goals? Everyone says, oh, I want to have $1 million. I want to have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I want to have a 6-pack. But here's the problem. Most people never hit their goals because they keep operating as the same person. Same routine, same mindset, same environment. You don't get what you want. You get who you are. So don't ask yourself, how do I get that goal? Instead, ask yourself, who do I need to become to deserve that goal? What does that person do every single day? What do they say no to? How do they speak, think, show up? Your goals don't respond to your wishes. They respond to your identity. So if you want more, don't just want it. Become the person who earns it. Lesson number 5. People somehow think that they need to have this crazy idea in order to succeed. Something revolutionary, something that no one has ever done before. But honestly, I think that's bullshit. I've written by now 3 best-selling books, have millions of subscribers on YouTube, and not because my ideas were revolutionary. Instead, I just obsessed over one thing, over making things easy. For example, a few years ago, I wasn't a writer. I had never written a single book. I didn't even like writing. But back then, I'd read tons of books on storytelling. And you know what I kept thinking? Sure, they're fine, but they're full of fluff. No real examples, not really practical. So I asked myself, what if I just took the same ideas and I made it simpler, more useful, more actionable, more practical? And that's what I did. Sure, I didn't reinvent the wheel. I just made the wheel easier to roll. And that's what blew things up. So if you're waiting for some genius idea to hit you, stop. You don't need something new. Just take what already exists and make it more practical. Lesson number 6. The way that most people set their goals is the exact reasons why they stay stuck. I used to set myself realistic goals. I was like, I want to grow by 10% this year. I make a little bit more. Sure, it worked, but it was also exhausting. I was constantly busy, right? More calls, more projects, more effort. But then I heard this idea from Dan Sullivan. 10x is easier than 2x. And at first I thought, that makes no sense. But the more I sat with it, the more it clicked. A 2x goal, that just meant doing more of the same thing. But a 10x goal, well, that forced me to think completely differently. It forced me to ask myself, hey, what are the 1 to 2 things that could really radically change my business? Also, what do I need to outsource? What do I need to drop in order to spend some time on that? And then also, who do I need to become to hit that next level? And once I shifted my focus, everything changed. I quadrupled my clients and exploded on YouTube, all in one single year. Not by working any harder, but by thinking bigger. Lesson number 7. Ever felt like you're not ready yet? Me too, many times. When I started teaching storytelling, I had just finished 1 course. Not my 10th, not my 2nd, just 1. But 2 weeks later, I went on LinkedIn and I said, I'm a professional storytelling coach. Now, was I a bit delusional? Absolutely, right? It was way too delusional. But that 1 post changed everything. Because now I knew I had to become the person I claimed to be. So I went all in, right? I read 34 books on storytelling, I took 10 more courses, and I shared what I learned every single week on LinkedIn. Now, that 1 post got noticed by a friend at Google, and she asked me, hey, Philipp, can you give a storytelling workshop for my team? And I was like, sure, yeah, I can do that. I gave the workshop, and after the workshop, they booked me for another 4 times. Now, none of that would have ever happened if I had waited to feel ready. So, go all in before you're ready. Commit today and then grow into it, because commitment creates momentum. Lesson number 8. Working with people felt like a struggle until I made this 1 change. Now, for years I showed up with this wrong energy. I wanted something from my audience. I wanted people to like me. I wanted people to applaud me. I wanted them to buy something from me. Now, I was showing up as a taker. And people, they can feel that, right? We all have this built-in radar. If this person is trying to sell you something, well, resistance goes up, right? Their guard goes up. They're much less likely to trust you and work with you. Everything shifted when I made 1 small change. Every single activity, I tell myself, show up with a giver's mindset. Before every workshop, every video, every call, I ask myself, how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? And that changes everything. My tone, my presence, my energy. Show up to give, not to get. Lesson number 9. Philipp, in your videos, you're magnetic, you're fun, you're full of life. Like, why don't you show up like this here in this call? That's what my coach asked me earlier this year. And I said, well, hey, this is my on-camera energy, right? Off camera, I guess I'm just a little bit more introverted, more quiet, maybe a little bit more grumpy. But she challenged that and she said, who says that? That's not your identity. It's just a habit. It's a pattern. You can choose who you bring to the table. And she was right. Charisma. It isn't a trait. It is a choice. I can choose to bring energy into any room. I can choose to speak with warmth and presence, even if I don't feel like it. Not really to fake it, but to grow into it. Lesson number 10. In my 20s, I hung out with a lot of people who were well, they were fine, right? Nice, familiar, fun at parties. But over time, I realized I wasn't growing with them. I wasn't excited, I wasn't inspired. They were just there. And sure, I stayed friends with them simply because we had some history together. But here's the truth. The people around you shape your energy, mindset, and trajectory. You become the people you spend the most time with. So I made a shift. Now, I only hang out with people who inspire me. And sure, it doesn't have to be business. It can be any area of life. Business, spirituality, hobbies, love, anywhere. But if they drain me or if it's just neutral, well, I let go, right? Not with big drama, making a big announcement, but just quietly, intentionally spending more time with the people who actually light a fire within me. Because when you upgrade your circle, you upgrade your life. Lesson number 11. Now, you always hear those people that say, I read 1 book per year. I think that's bullshit. For years I did the same. 1 book per week, a new one the next one, always chasing that one perfect insight that would change everything. But instead of growing, I felt stuck. Every teacher had a different method, a different mindset, a different path. So I ended being pulled in all those different directions all at once. That only changed once I made one big decision. Pick one teacher and go deep. For example, for me, for spirituality, I picked Michael Singer. For business, well, I consumed a lot from Alex Hormozi. And I went all in. I reread their books like 5 times. I watched all of their videos. I applied what I learned. So for a full year, I only consumed content from those 2. And the result? Well, I grew more in 1 year than the 5 years before. So stop hopping around and instead pick one voice and go deep. Lesson number 12. Can you work half the time but earn much more? Now, that's a question I asked myself last year. So I ran a wild experiment. For 30 days, I worked 3 hours less every single day. But instead of working, I spent the time on spiritual practices. So long walks, hour-long meditations, tuning into those feelings of abundance, love, and confidence. And at first I was a little bit scared, right? I was like, oh shoot, right? If I work less, then I earn less. But then something crazy happened. I closed more deals than ever, had my highest earning month, and got the best workshop feedback I've ever gotten in my life. Because I wasn't operating from stress or scarcity. I was centered, calm, and magnetic. And that's when I realized your inner growth is your business growth. So most people treat your inner work like it was a luxury. They're like, if I have time, I will meditate. But what if you flip that around? What if your inner state came before your to-do list? Because the best results don't come from grinding harder. They come from showing up in your highest state. Now, those were some of my biggest lessons I've learned in the last 20 years. But if there's one skill that changed everything for me, it is storytelling. It helped me to grow my business, land my dream clients, and reach millions online. So if you want to master that skill too, well, check out this next video where I break down some of my favorite storytelling techniques. See you there.